Hi, I'm Cheyenne, and today I'm going to be talking about my May reads and my June TBR. This is my first YouTube video. I am an avid watcher of all things booktube, book talk, anything bookish. I am watching it. I am also probably reading it. I specifically like fantasy, romance, romantasy. I read a little bit of historical fiction. I'm open to other genres, but so far that is what I have delved into. I thought this would be a good first video because I had a pretty hefty May TBR and I did in fact complete it, and I'm really proud of myself, and I have a ton of opinions on it, so let's talk about it. So let's get started with my first book of May, which was Passion Project by London Sperry. This was my April book of the month pick. I normally wouldn't pick up this book, but I think it might have just been the best option there was for April. I really couldn't get into it right away, so I did start listening to it on Spotify. I started it in April and I finished it in May, so I am counting it as my first book of May. I think I gave it 2 stars. It just wasn't doing it for me. I enjoyed the idea of the passion projects. I thought that was really cute. However, the execution was terrible. I think the main character's name was Bennett. She pissed me off so much. I understand that it was about her grief and her journey and that everyone experiences that differently. However, she was horrible. She was horrible. Everything up until the wedding scene was understandable. She was grieving. She wasn't a good friend. She was depressed. She spent a ton of time in her room. She forgot so many things, and that's completely understandable. However, when you decide that you're ready to be in a relationship and you make this man your boyfriend, this man has been nothing but good to you and perfect to you the whole time, and you decide he's your boyfriend, and then you take him to that wedding and you treat him that way, you lose me. You lose me. I could not get behind that. I don't think that was okay. It ruined the entire book for me. I'm happy for her that he forgave her, but I did not, and I gave this 2 stars. That's all. Moving on to something more positive. I probably should have started with the positives, but moving on to something more positive. This book was my second read of May, and if you can't tell, I loved it. I love Frederick Bachman. I love how he writes. I think he's one of the most unique writers that I've ever read. I just love the way he explains things. I love the way he foreshadows things. I love Frederick Bachman. The second this book came out, I ran to get it because I just knew that I needed to read it. I have rated every single one of Frederick Bachman's books at least 4 stars or above. I think he's just an amazing writer. I think he knows how to get you where it hurts. This book specifically, I can barely tell you what even happened. It's about a painting and a girl and an old man and a group of friends. And that's pretty much all I can tell you. You would just have to read it to understand. It hits so hard in the heart. It makes you feel things you did not expect to feel. It makes you love every single character in here, even the ones that aren't alive, the ones that aren't in the actual story. The flashback scenes are just so good. It was amazing, and I did give it 4.5 stars because I loved it so much. My third book of May was my Fairy Loot edition of Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. It is so beautiful. I love Olivia Blake. I would have read this anyways, but I am so happy I got the Fairy Loot edition. This book is about 3 siblings who recently lost their father. Their father was the CEO of a technology company that basically was an empire. They have a very complicated and weird relationship with each other and with their father. The general plot of this story is them returning to their childhood home to receive their father's will and find out who receives what from their father's death. There's not much plot, but the depth of the characters that you get into is so interesting. It's so entertaining. It's so funny at some points. It's also very sad at a lot of points. I really enjoyed this. It was kind of hard to get into. It was a little bit confusing at first, and if you're not interested in deep diving into each and every single character in this book, You probably won't enjoy it that much. The plot is not necessarily the main factor of this book. It's mostly about the characters and who they are and why they are the way they are. And if you're interested in that, you should definitely give this a try. I ended up giving it 4 stars, even though it was a little bit hard to get into. It was a little bit hard to get through. I mean, it's pretty big, but overall at the end, I was so happy that I did commit to it and I did read the whole thing. At about 10%, I almost did DNF. And if you look at the reviews on Goodreads, I noticed that a lot of people did DNF pretty early on, and I fully understand that. It definitely didn't grab my attention right away, but once it did get my attention and once I did feel a connection to these characters, it was so hard to put down and it made it all worth it. If you like Olivia Blake's writing, I think you should give it a try. If you like character-driven plots, I think you should give it a try. But it's not for everyone. However, it was for me. My next read of May was one of my most anticipated releases of 2025. It was probably a lot of people's most anticipated release, and I was scared to pick it up because I started seeing a lot of reviews very early on that it wasn't what people were expecting, it wasn't that good, and it scared me away from it for a very long time. And I just have to say, they were wrong. You should definitely read this book. You might not like it. That's on you. This is a great book, and everyone who has anything bad to say about it is just wrong. They're wrong. This book was so beautifully written. The romance was beautiful. The current storyline and the past storyline were both perfectly written and executed. Emily Henry did it again with this book, and I don't care what anyone has to say. They are wrong. They're wrong. This is a romance book. It's not just literary fiction. It has elements of that, and I think if you enjoy that, you'll enjoy this book. However, you don't have to enjoy literary fiction to enjoy the romance in this book. It is a romance book and it's still in there, and anyone saying that it's not is just wrong. They're wrong. I don't care. Sorry. I have a lot of opinions about this because I loved this book. This book follows 2 journalists who are competing for a chance to write a memoir for a former tabloid princess. Her family was very, very popular in the tabloids, as was specifically her, and she has gone into hiding. She's living on a little island, and these 2 characters, 2 journalists, come to that island and compete for a chance to write a memoir about her life. I personally loved learning about her story. I loved how the end came about and the whole purpose of all of this. I loved the setting. I loved that they were on this little island and everywhere they went, they ran into each other. I loved everything about this book. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't amazing. At some points it did get boring. However, all of the criticism that this book receives is just unnecessary. This is a great book. It's very much an Emily Henry book. It sounds like Emily Henry. The romance is very Emily Henry. However, I do see why some people would say it's a literary fiction more than a romance. I don't agree with that, but I understand. But I loved the romance. Alice and Hayden were so cute. I love that they tried to respect each other and respect the fact that they didn't want to hurt each other. And I loved this book, and I wish people would stop hating on it so much. Okay, moving on. I'm realizing I read a lot of very criticized or heavily debated books this month, and I think it's just a lot of FOMO. Once I see people talking about it, I want to know why, and I want to have my own opinion on it because I clearly have such strong opinions. And my next book this month was my book of the month pick, which was Silver Elite by Danny Francis, whoever that is. I did get the special edition, or the book of the month special edition, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I would have just bought the regular one, but I do like it. This book was a huge disappointment. The fact that they advertised this book as the adult Hunger Games or anything like that is just insane. It's barely dystopian in my opinion. There was just no reason to use that specific terminology for this book. I was so excited. I've been craving a new dystopian book to obsess over, and this just wasn't it. I did have fun at first. It was entertaining. I won't say it was like a horrible book by any means, but it was not what it was advertised as. This is not the adult Hunger Games. I don't even know why they would say that. My biggest complaints about this book is that it was so predictable, and I hated the main character. She was the most insufferable, annoying person ever. Every decision she made pissed me off. She made so many decisions knowing they were just gonna backfire on her and did it anyways. I mean, once you got to a certain point of the book, there was like, you don't even know why you're reading anymore. You don't even know why she's there, what she's doing. She doesn't even know why she's there or what she's doing. She was expecting people to save her, which made no sense because everyone told her not to do what she did, and she did it anyways. I liked the mailman character in this book, however, it was very predictable where this was gonna go. I think they could have came up with something better than that. That was just kind of disappointing because you know where it's going, but you're also hoping that you're gonna be surprised or shocked by where it actually goes, and that didn't happen. You do know where it's going, you do know what's gonna happen, and that's pretty boring. I hated the end of this book. I don't see the point of it. I just really don't see the point of this whole book, if I'm being honest. I did give it 2.5 stars. Not that good, not horrible. It was entertaining for a bit. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't waste my time on it if I were you, but I got through it. I had a good time at first. So after that book, I really needed something light and easy to read. At the beginning of this year, I read Deep End by Ellie Hazelwood. That was my first Ellie Hazelwood book, and I did enjoy it. It wasn't anything amazing, but I ended up reading 2 more of her books directly after that I devoured. I loved them so much, and I did not read Not in Love because I just thought it would be too spicy. I didn't think it really had much of a plot. That's what I had heard or seen. I saw that this month in June, Ellie Hazelwood has a new book coming out called Problematic Summer Romance. So I decided to read this book so that I can be prepared for the next book in the series, which is Problematic Summer Romance. I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought Eli was very attentive and kind, and he really understood Rue, or gave her the space to just be who she is even when he didn't understand her. And I identified a lot with Rue. I think she is very misunderstood. I think she thinks way too much and just has some issues that just can't be understood by a lot of people, and I think a lot of people would probably judge her for it or make her feel uncomfortable. And I loved that Eli was so patient with her, so understanding, and just gave her the time and space to be who she was and feel what she felt, while also being there when she needed him. I thought they were such a cute couple. I read this so quickly. It was so much fun. It was the perfect palate cleanser, and I'm super excited for Problematic Summer Romance up next. And the last book that I read in May was my favorite book of the month and possibly of the year. It is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I do have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition, which I am so thankful I did not cancel my Fairy Loot subscription because I love this book. I think this is the most beautiful cover, the most beautiful colors. I think that these end papers are just so pretty. I mean, hello, look how cute. So there's so much detail. I love the silver foiling. Okay, this isn't a Fairy Loot review. This is a book review, and The Night and the Moth was a perfect book. I have rated both of The Shepherd King duology by Rachel Gillig 5 stars, and she put out another 5 stars. I cannot even believe that I'm saying that all 3 of her books are 5 stars for me, but this book was absolute perfection. The setting, the gothic, dark fantasy aspect of it was so well done, and so like I truly felt that I was in this atmosphere. I did read it on some rainy days, which probably added to the overall vibe of how I felt about this book, but even without that, I think I would have loved it. I loved Sybil and Rory's dynamic. I loved that it was such a slow burn and that they didn't immediately fall for each other. I loved that there was a aspect of enemies to lovers without it being overly done. This book was both funny, romantic, dark, sad. It was everything that a book should be. Gargoyle was the perfect side character. He made me laugh out loud so many times. I loved him so much, and when I found out his backstory, it made me sob so hard. I cared for Sybil so much. I'm so happy that she got to experience a life outside of the cathedral. She was so strong and so funny and so witty. She went through so much, and as she went through her journey of learning who she is and understanding that what she had went through wasn't normal, I loved seeing her grow and take the time to think and to feel what she was feeling before she just accepted what was being told to her. She never just heard something and immediately felt that she had to transform into something else. I think the way she just remained true to herself the whole time was so beautiful. Watching her slowly learn to be herself and break away from the things that she had been taught for so long and things that had been instilled in her was it was just such a beautiful journey to watch. I felt so sad for her throughout so many parts of this book. Seeing her learn and try to unlearn things that were not normal and trying to understand what was real and what wasn't was so heartbreaking. I'm just so happy that she did get her revenge in a way. And the way this book ended had me so shocked. Of course, I saw something coming. I picked up on some of the things, but I just truly was not expecting that. I loved the found family aspect of this, and that really just threw me off so much. I was seriously sitting here with my mouth wide open, just in complete shock. I could not believe that happened, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. I know it's not the end for Rory and Sybil. I gave this 5 stars, 100% 5 stars. It was the most beautiful, perfectly written book I've ever read, and I loved it so much. I loved the found family. I loved Rory and Sybil. I loved Maud. I loved the gargoyle. The gargoyle made me laugh and cry, and this book took me through every single emotion that you should feel, and that's how I know when it's a 5 stars. I loved this book. Thank you, Rachel Gillick. You've done it again. Okay, now let's talk about my June TBR. I probably won't get to all of these books. I read a lot more than I usually do last month, so I might take it a little bit slower this month in terms of reading. However, there are 2 books that I definitely 100% want to get to. I am trying to lower my physical TBR, and I did buy these with the intention of reading them right away, so I definitely need to do that so I'm not just adding to my physical TBR. And the first one is a book that I have seen so many people love, but I've just never read. And I think it's gonna be a perfect summer book, and I'm really excited to get to it. This will probably be the first book that I read this month, and that is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I don't even know what this is about, and honestly, I don't know what many of these books I'm about to show you are about, but I'm kind of like to just go into books without knowing too much. I think it makes it a little bit more fun, so I'm sorry I don't have any explanations for these books. So this one for sure, I think it'll be a perfect summer book. I'm super excited to get into it. On the same path, another romance book, which I've already talked about, is Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. I do know a few things about this book, specifically that it's an age gap romance. But I am super excited to read it. I think it's gonna give Grumpy Sunshine a little bit, because I do remember Hark being, is that his name, Hark? I do remember Hark being a little bit more standoffish while Maya was very outgoing and happy, and I just think this will be a fun read, and I'm really excited to get into it. Another book that I have on my physical TBR that I think I want to get off of my physical TBR this month is Better Than the Movies. I've had this book for a while. I got it as the $5 Barnes & Noble book. I got this a few months ago, and it's definitely time for me to finally read it and get it off my TBR. I've seen a lot of people who really love this book, so I'm really excited to get into it. I think it's young adult, and it's just so cute. So yeah, I'm excited. Moving on from romance, this is a book that I think I'm gonna read this month. I'm feeling a lot of FOMO about everyone talking about it, same as Silver Elite and Great Big Beautiful Life. I don't have the physical book, but I am super excited to get into Shield of Sparrows. It is on Kindle Unlimited, and I don't know what it's about, but I want to have an opinion because everyone else has one, so I am excited to get into it. Last book that I definitely want to get to, I don't know if I will. I kind of want to get to this book every month, and I never do. That is The Women by Kristen Hanna. I have had this book for quite some time now, and I'm just scared. I am scared to get into it. Kristen Hanna emotionally destroys me every time. My favorite book of all time is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, and honestly, I'm scared. I'm scared. Honestly, I'm just scared, but I think it's time. I need to get into it. We'll see if I do. There's a few other books that are on my radar. I don't know if I'll get to them. I'm not gonna give myself a strict TBR for this month because I did read all of my books last month on my TBR, and I think I just want to mood read mostly this month. So we'll see what I get to, and hopefully I'll be back next month for a reading wrap up with my reviews. And yeah, that's all. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed some of my reviews or my opinions, then please like, follow, and subscribe, and I'll try to be back sometime soon. Thank you, bye!